Growing up in the tiny, whisper-quiet town of Ridgewood, Arkansas, I always knew I was different. Not just because of where I lived or how I dressed, but because of the strange, bulky hearing device clipped behind my left ear. My name is Ashley, and this is the story of how my greatest burden became my strangest superpower. I was born with a hearing impairment. My parents never really explained the details, just that without the device, something bad would happen. I believed them, of course. I was just a kid. I didn't question the way it squealed sometimes or how it felt like it was welded to my skull. I followed the rules, never take it off, but that didn't stop the bullying. At school, Molly, the class clown turned class tyrant, made sure I never forgot how different I was. She'd tap on the device and say things like, "Agent Ashley, do you copy? We have a breach in security." The class would burst into laughter and the teachers would look away, too afraid to challenge the girl who'd roast them in front of everyone. Home wasn't much better. My parents argued constantly, always about me. "You're suffocating her," Dad would say, like she needs space. "She needs support," Mom would fire back. Sometimes I'd sit at the dinner table, quietly stabbing at my peas while the shouting circled around me like vultures. One day, something inside me snapped. I ripped the hearing device from my ear, and the sound that hit me was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Sharp, searing, unnatural, like 1,000 whistles inside my skull. I collapsed, hands over my ears, barely breathing. My parents rushed to me, forcing the device back in. The pain vanished instantly, replaced by silence and confusion. "What was that?" I asked. "That's why you can't remove it," Dad said firmly. "It's to protect you," Mom added. "From what?" I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Something about their faces told me I wasn't ready for the answer. Years passed. I stayed quiet, endured the bullying, and avoided removing the device. But the questions never left. In high school, Mom forced me to join an extracurricular activity. "You need to socialize," she said. So I picked soccer, the only sport I was remotely decent at. And guess who was on the team? Molly. Of course, she hadn't changed. She still hurled insults like javelins. "Trashly," she called me during our most important game. "Try scoring for once instead of just standing there like a mailbox with Wi-Fi." That game changed everything. As we neared the final whistle, she passed me the ball. I wasn't ready. I stumbled, missed the shot, and collapsed. Laughter erupted. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I stood up and, without thinking, kicked the ball straight at Molly's head. She tackled me instantly, ripped the device from my ear, and flung it across the field. Then the ringing returned. But this time, something strange happened. Everyone froze. When I opened my eyes, everything was still. The soccer field, once buzzing with chaos, was now frozen in perfect silence. Molly's body was mid-charge, her arms extended, her face twisted in anger, but she wasn't moving. The referee, hand outstretched to break up the fight, stood like a statue. Even the wind had stopped. I stood slowly, heart pounding. Had I done this? I whispered into the silence. "Hello!" My voice echoed back to me. I could hear myself clearly without the device. That shouldn't have been possible. My eyes darted across the field until I spotted the device wedged in the goalpost. I ran toward it and shoved it back in my ear. The familiar jolt of pain surged through me, and then motion. Noise returned like a wave crashing onto the shore. Molly was being pulled away by the ref. Spectators were shouting, and a boy, someone from the rival team, was standing in front of me. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, offering me his hand. His name was Jasper. He had strange, wraparound sunglasses secured tightly to his head with wire. "Can't take these off," he said. Something about light sensitivity. But his smile was warm, sincere. He looked at me like I wasn't some freak on the field. "Don't let them get to you," he said. "Sometimes your biggest weakness is actually your biggest strength." I froze. Again, not in time this time, but emotionally. He didn't know what had just happened, what I had done, but something in his tone felt familiar. Like he did know. I didn't tell my parents about the time freeze. Not yet. I needed to be sure. That night, I waited until they were arguing. again and ran to the bathroom. With a deep breath, I yanked the device out. Instantly, that same piercing ring, and then silence. I stepped outside. The world was frozen again. My neighbor was mid-pedal on his bike. The trees were still. No sound, no motion, not even the faintest breeze. I borrowed his bike and rode to the town lookout, the highest point overlooking Ridgewood. I scanned the horizon. Stillness. Except a man stood in the river, fly fishing. The line on his reel jerked slightly in the current. He wasn't frozen. I stared, mesmerized. What was happening? Why was I like this? And then I remembered something strange from earlier. Jasper. His sunglasses, the way he had appeared when everyone else was frozen. Could he be like me? I biked back through town and past a line of parked cars at the infamous makeout spot. I peeked into one and my stomach dropped. Molly and Jasper. They were mid-argument, frozen in place. I felt betrayed, confused. He had just told me to stay strong. Now he was cozy with the girl who made my life miserable. Anger surged through me. There was a tiny lizard crawling nearby. Without thinking, I picked it up and dropped it into the crack of the car window, right onto Molly's lap. Then I slipped behind a tree, shoved my hearing aid back in, and unfroze time. The scream that followed was glorious. Molly's shrieking echoed through the trees as she tumbled out of the car, flailing like she'd been struck by lightning. I watched, grinning behind the tree, my anger cooling into something dangerously close to satisfaction. It was the first time I had felt powerful, but that power came with a price. Later that evening, I returned home. My parents were furious. "Where were you?" Mom demanded. "We didn't even hear you leave." "I just needed to get out," I snapped. "To get away from your fighting." I stormed to my room and locked the door, slumping against it. My heart was pounding again, not from guilt, but from something deeper, a desire to understand what was happening to me. And maybe to control it. Over the next few days, I began using my powers more intentionally. I froze time to improve my grades, copying notes from the smartest students during tests. I used it to impress a new group of girls at school, buying a birthday gift mid-freeze and passing it off as if I'd thought of it all along. It worked. I was making friends. My parents were impressed. Even my teachers started noticing my improvement. And at our final soccer match, I got my ultimate revenge. When Molly went to kick a penalty shot, I froze time. Her leg was mid-swing. I moved the ball just a few inches to the side. When time resumed, she whiffed completely and landed flat on her back. Her face turned beet red as the crowd laughed. Later, I did the opposite. I moved the goalpost slightly and pivoted the goalie during another freeze, this time for me. When time resumed, I scored the winning goal. The team lifted me up in celebration. And then I saw Jasper again. He found me after the game, smiling, proud. "You were amazing," he said. "Didn't know you'd be here," I said, trying to sound cool. "My best friend's on the other team. Figured I'd show up. Hope he forgives me for talking to the enemy." He asked me out. For a second, I forgot everything. Molly, the weird powers, even the betrayal I thought I saw that night in the car. I said yes, but as I got home and prepared for the evening, I knew I had a take-home test I'd never finish in time. So, one more time, I used the powers. I froze time, stole the janitor's keys, broke into the teacher's office, and snapped photos of the answer sheet. But this time, the pain in my head was excruciating. My hearing aids screamed louder than ever before. I knocked over a coffee mug in my daze, soaking the answers. I barely made it out, returning the keys and running home before time resumed. Jasper never showed. Furious and heartbroken, I biked to the lookout, hoping to confront him. And there he was, with Molly. They were arguing, or whispering, or something. I stepped out of the shadows. "So, you stood me up. Was this the plan all along? Humiliate the freak?" Jasper's eyes widened. "Ashley? No, it's not what it looks like." But I'd had enough. "What are you really hiding?" Then, for the first time ever, I yanked off his sunglasses, and everything changed. As soon as I pulled Jasper's sunglasses off, time cracked. His hand caught my wrist in a blur, eyes glowing with shock and fear. I gasped and staggered back, but he didn't say anything. His body went limp, frozen. I quickly pushed the glasses back onto his face, and the stillness remained. I was too reckless. I had almost revealed myself to the wrong person. Or maybe the right one? Terrified, I fled the lookout and returned home. I needed answers. And if my parents wouldn't give them willingly, I would find them myself. That night, while they slept, I removed the hearing device and froze time once more. I crept into Dad's home office. Filing cabinets creaked softly as I rifled through them. That's when I found it. Adoption papers. I was adopted at 3 years old. Shock slammed into me like a wave. My parents weren't even my biological family. All the arguments, the overprotectiveness, it wasn't just about parenting styles. They had been hiding something. The next morning, Mom burst into my room. "The school called," she shouted. "You snuck into the teacher's office? Someone spilled coffee on the answer key." "I just wanted to do well," I cried. "To make you both proud." Her voice cracked. "Well, this isn't how." "I know the truth," I said firmly. "You adopted me, and you knew about the device, about the powers. You've been hiding this from me." The room went quiet. Dad stepped in. "It's complicated." "Try me," I snapped. They explained everything. I hadn't just been adopted. I was part of a group of infants exposed to a chemical leak in a hospital nursery. Most babies were unaffected, but a handful, including me, developed the ability to manipulate time when their senses were disrupted. In my case, it was sound. That's what the device was for, to control my perception, keep my powers dormant. They said they were trying to protect me. I didn't believe them. I couldn't. So I ran. I ran until I was out of breath, until the lights of the town were behind me. I pulled the device out, but in my panic, I dropped it on the road. And then I heard the worst sound of all, the crunch of a car tire. Mom's car had stopped just inches ahead, but the hearing device was destroyed beneath the wheel. I tried desperately to put it back in, hoping time would freeze. Nothing happened. My power was gone. I needed help, and I knew exactly where to go. I found Molly at her house, tears streaming down her face. I unlocked her phone with her thumb while she was frozen. Dozens of missed calls, all from Jasper. I copied his address and biked across town. Jasper was frozen inside what looked like a small shed, holding a photo of himself as a child, surrounded by a large family. I gently removed his glasses, and he blinked. "Ashley?" "Jasper, I don't have much time." Together, we stepped outside. Birds were still frozen mid-flight. Time hadn't resumed, Jasper confessed. "I was part of it too. Born the same day as you, same hospital. There were a few of us. The chemical did something. My glasses control my ability, like your device did. We were connected. He told me his parents had forced him to steal a master device from the lab where our tools were made. They wanted to control me, but I ran. I took the master device with me. If I destroy it, time resumes for everyone. But our powers, they'll be gone. Forever." We stood in silence. He looked at me. "What do you want, Ashley?" "I want to be normal," I whispered. "I want to live, mess up, get hurt, be happy for real." We went back to school to tie up loose ends. Then, in the middle of the soccer field, Jasper dropped the master device and crushed it under his foot. I joined him, smashing the pieces of my broken hearing aid beside his shattered glasses. Then, slowly, the world came back to life. People moved, birds sang, the breeze returned. It was over. When I got home, my parents were waiting, but this time, they weren't arguing. They were holding hands. "We just want what's best for you," Mom said softly. I smiled. What's best for me is learning who I am on my own, without powers, without secrets. I saw the pride in their eyes. They hugged me. I had finally unfrozen more than just time. I had unfrozen my life.